What's up, family? It is Caden here with Urban Finance. I'm excited about my conversation today with my good brother and friend, Adam Walker. But before we jump into the conversation, for a bit of housekeeping. So let's handle the housekeeping. If you have any questions or comments, we invite you to join in the conversation and leave your questions or comments in the comment section below. And if you're watching live, say hi, let us know that you're watching. Drop a thumbs up or a smiley face in the comment section so I know that you're tuning in. And I invite you to smash the like button for the YouTube or Facebook algorithm. And without further ado, I'll invite my brother, Adam Walker, out. So, Adam, for those of you that do not know, for those of them that may not know you, can you tell us who is Adam Walker?
Hi, so happy to be here. So happy to join this channel with my brother, Caden. Who is Adam Walker? Adam Walker is first of all, a minister, a poet, an architectural designer, a construction project manager, a mentor. I sit on multiple boards of directors for different organizations, and I think that would sum it up. Awesome. A father, first and foremost, of an amazing 3-year-old daughter. So,
yeah, no, that's a blessing. That's a blessing right there, man. And so when I first met you, you were in architecture school. And so why did you want to become an architect?
So at my high school, we had what were called electives. And so you had your core classes, your math, your science, your English, and then you got to pick every marking period 2 classes that you wanted to take that were electives. And most people I grew up with took like study hall or foods so they could eat. And my dad decided that I was going to take drafting classes and I was going to take guitar classes. Now the guitar classes didn't stick, but when I got into the drafting classes, I realized that he saw something in me that I didn't understand, that I could see space differently and I understood how space worked differently. And so it just like clicked instantly freshman year in high school. And I just knew that that's what I wanted my career path to be.
Oh, wow. That's a beautiful thing. And so I guess, is architecture school difficult?
Yeah. So nationally, every year, architecture school is ranked as one of the top 3 hardest majors to major in. So is architecture, law school, and medical school. And a lot of times they'll rank architecture school higher than law school and medical school on the rank of difficulty.
Oh, wow. That is actually crazy. And I would not have guessed that at all. And so I guess, what would you recommend if someone does want to get into architecture? Like, what would you recommend they do? Even starting as early as maybe, I guess, high school potentially?
So one, I would look for local programs that introduce high school students to architecture if they don't already have a program at their school like I did that could introduce them. I'm a part of an organization called the National Association of Minority Architects, or NOMA. NOMA has what they call Project Pipeline every year, and it's a free summer camp for minority youth that introduce them to architecture and design. And so it's in a lot of cities around the country. And since the pandemic, it's been virtual, so you could tune in from anywhere. So I would look into programs like that. There's ACE mentorship programs that introduce people. So I would look to get introduced to it and see if it is for you, because of how difficult architecture school is. People paint a pretty picture of architects, and they're cool. But the reality is that it's extremely hard.
Hmm. That's good to know. And so, I guess I'll ask this before I ask my follow-up question. And one of the things that is pretty big right now, or a lot of conversation around, is student loan and student loan forgiveness. And so, I guess from a financial side, do you think it's worth it to go to architecture school?
Yeah, I would say from a financial side, it is worth it to go to architecture school. I would say, especially if you're passionate about it. One
Mm,
thing I'm super big on is chasing passion and purpose, and then
mm,
figuring out how to make that work for you. And so for me, I knew that I wanted to go into architecture, and they said, don't go into architecture if you're looking to make money because
mm,
that's not the place. And I said, well, I'll figure out how to get to the financial success that I
mm,
want, but I'm going to major in the thing that I'm passionate about. And then I use that to strategically navigate my career
mm.
to get to the level that I am now financially.
Awesome. And so that's interesting that you say that someone told you don't go into architecture school if you want to make money, because I feel like, or at least the perspective or the viewpoint out there is that architects make really good money. And so I guess why would someone say that if, I mean, I think architects make really good money without knowing the salary yet, but I guess why would someone say that?
I mean, depending on the level that you're at and
Mhm,
the size firm that you're with, there's a lot of factors that go
mhm,
into it. But there are architects that can make 30 to 40 thousand dollars a year, or you can make six figures or more.
mhm,
It just depends on where you're at in your career, and the size firm that you're at. And so there's so many different factors. So there are people that I've seen that make $50,000 for their whole career, and that's
mhm,
as far as they go.
mhm. And so right now you are a construction project engineer. So can you tell us how much that position makes and kind of your journey getting to get there?
Yeah. So my position makes anywhere around $100,000 a year.
Mhm,
Um, and so it could be between like 80 to 120 depending on what firm you're at.
mhm,
Um, but I'm right at $100,000 a year, and so my journey getting there, my first college class, I had a professor who put on the board 100 different jobs that you can get with an architecture degree that
mhm,
have nothing to do with designing buildings.
mm,
And it was very eye opening for me when he put that up there because it was things like working at a 3D printing company, which I have done. It was working for city government, writing the code on how buildings can be constructed,
mhm,
or zoning on where you can put. Um, the zoning laws dictate where certain types of buildings can go. So, like a residential can't go near an industrial building, and so zoning dictates where those go. So you could be on the zoning board.
mm,
You can. I've worked for a government, assessing all the government-owned buildings, and putting a price tag to them, and then project managing getting them designed and built out. So there's just this vast career. Um, Opportunities, like even being like a Disney engineer.
mm,
Um, Disney theme parks are designed, or and then in today's day and age with the metaverse or
mm,
with gaming, right? Those worlds are designed by someone. When you're playing a video game and you're going through this world, that's actually designed with the same tools and skills that I learned in architecture school. And so going through that, I went through architecture school. I got my degree in architectural sustainability, and I wrote my thesis on how to overcome marginalization and gentrification through cultural
mm,
sustainability. And I worked in an architecture firm for a really long time, and I was working on amazing projects. I worked on this $1 billion project, 1.2 million square feet,
mm,
corporate redevelopment. And I got to a place where I was working on these really cool buildings, but I didn't feel like I was challenging myself intellectually the way that I wanted to be challenged.
mm,
And so I decided to begin to explore different career opportunities, and construction project management seemed like it was an opportunity for me to stretch myself and push myself into the unknown and be uncomfortable again, which is where I felt like I would grow the most. And so I transitioned into construction project management, which was one of the best decisions I ever made. I was working for a grocery store, and I built their headquarters for them. And then I built their distribution centers for them. And then I transitioned to my current company, CRB, and I was on the project engineer on whiskey barrel manufacturing plant in Moorhead, Kentucky. So I was on site at this whiskey barrel manufacturing plant for 2 years, managing that. And so that's how I got to where I am in my career.
Yeah, and so that's a pretty cool story, and I like the fact that your career progression overall. And this may apply to architecture, but it really can apply to anything else. I guess in terms of becoming successful in your career or getting to next level in your career, what are some advice or recommendations you would give to someone that is trying to move up in their field? It can be architecture specific, but it can also be general.
Um, I would say that relationship building is extremely important. And I tell people all the time when I mentor, don't network for a job, network for relationships. So none of my mentors have ever gotten me a job. Um, but what they have done is when I've been in places in my career where I didn't know what to do, I was able to reach out to them and run it past them, and they were able to step in and give me advice and help me get to that next level of my career. Even as I progress to higher levels and I get to places where I'm going through 10-part interviews and I have to write essays on an interview, that's very different than going to having a phone screening with HR and then meeting with your direct manager, and that's the interview process. So having these like multi-level interviews and then being able to reach out to people in my network and say, hey, I don't know what to do here. How do I navigate this? Has been extremely important, and I highly recommend it. And then operating at excellence. Like I can't stress the importance of
Mm,
operating at excellence. Like
I like that.
your character follows you no matter where you go. So when
Mm,
you operate in excellence, no matter what the situation, right? Sometimes we get caught up in, well, the environment at this job is toxic. So
yeah,
I'm going to bring myself down to that level, or I'm not going to work hard because everybody else doesn't work hard. Um,
mm,
but if you're truly trying to navigate your career and get to the highest levels, operating in excellence, no matter what the situation, and pushing yourself to be the best version of you, um, will open doors that you don't even realize. Someone will see you in a space and hear you talk. I've gotten countless opportunities from someone just seeing me speak at an event.
mm,
Um, and understand and hearing my story and hearing my passion, and then asking me to come interview for a job
mm.
or come do work for them, or whatever it may be. But it was because I always operate in excellence no matter where I'm at.
Yeah, no, I absolutely love that, and I always tell people, no matter no matter what job you're doing, always do it to the best of your ability. Because if you're not doing that, the only person you're really shortchanging is yourself. And the reason why I firmly believe that whatever level of effort you're going to get, anything we do in life, improvement comes with repetition. So whatever behaviors we repeat, those are the behaviors we're going to strengthen and go forward it. And so if you're, for lack of a better word, lackadaisical or lazy at one job because you hate that job or because the environment is toxic, then you're going to take that same lazy habit a lot of times to an environment that may not be toxic, and then you become the problem. And so I love that idea that you're saying about no matter where you find yourself, whether it's a toxic environment or a good environment, always operate in excellence. And I'm someone that also believes when you have that attitude towards work, success will find you. So I absolutely love that. And so would you say that's your secret to your success in your career?
Yeah, I would say that that's my secret to my success. Like I've been in positions where, um, like when I transitioned out of architecture into construction project management, the job description said that they wanted someone with 10 years of construction management experience, someone who had managed uh, $100 million projects, all of these things that I didn't have on paper. If you looked at my resume, I didn't have the qualifications.
Yeah.
But what I did have was the skills, and I could speak to those. I could speak to how I always operate in excellence. I could speak to the problems that I have been able to solve, whether that be $1 million budget, a $25 million budget. And so then managing $25 million where I'm signing off on every dollar spent wasn't an issue for me because it didn't matter the dollar amount. It mattered that I was going to operate in excellence in my
Mm.
decision making.
No, I love that. And so, I guess, what would you recommend to someone who's looking at a job and say, I don't think I qualify for that particular job?
Um, I would say look for transferable skills. So it's not always about a one for one skill set match from a job description to your resume, but it's like how can I find things that transfer? And so for me, when I gave my background, I have a very diverse background. I operate in so many different lanes all at the same time, and I'm able to pull on those lanes. So maybe I haven't managed people at work, but I can speak to youth ministry and when I've
Mm.
managed people within youth ministry and how I was able to build out youth programs and different things like that, or my time in theater when I was a stage manager
Mm.
and assistant production director. I can speak to that as a transferable skill. So no, it's not directly related to architecture or construction, but it's a transferable skill that I can highlight to show that I'm qualified for this position. And I think that people truly see passion, right? If
Yeah,
people see
yeah,
how
yeah.
passionate you are and how intent you are with your words and your actions, then they're willing to bet on you at times when
Mhm.
your resume may not add up to what their job description was.
Yeah, no, I love that. And the idea of, I guess, highlighting your transferable skills. I know when I was in recruiting, one of the big pushes we always do is veteran hiring. And one of the things we always talk to hiring managers about is the transferable skills that veterans may have from whatever station they were stationed when they were in the military to what they're currently doing now. And it's a skill to be able to highlight your transferable skills as well, because people don't always have the eyes to see how those particular skills that you may have had as a veteran may translate to, let's say, a management position and things of that nature. And so I do think that's a skill in even being able to highlight those things. And I love the fact that you mentioned youth ministry and even volunteer work sometimes that people may do. Those skills can still be used as transferable skills or skills that that may supplement something that the job is actually looking for. So I think that's an absolutely beautiful thing. And so, what are some things? And this can be towards architecture in general. It can be to your job. But what are some things that you love about your job? What are some things you love about architecture? And what are some areas that might be some need for improvement within the industry?
Um, so I guess I'll start with architecture. What drew me to architecture, what I love about space, is that at some point in time, this particular building, this particular space did not exist.
Hmm.
And then it was created in someone's mind. And then now it exists. And not only do I get to interact with the space that I designed, but I get to witness other people interact with that space and witness how unique each person's experience is with the space that I created. Now, because I may have been thinking about that space in one way, but then seeing someone else interact with that space and how they move through it, how they look at it, how they enjoy it is completely different than my design intent. And
Hmm.
that's the beauty of design, right? Like these buildings come alive and we have people, millions of people around the world who go see we go see the Louvre every year, or you go see Notre Dame.
Hmm.
And each person that passes through those spaces has a different experience, but at
Hmm.
some point that building didn't exist and architects had to design it. The same thing on the construction side. um, Early in my career on the architecture side, I got to go out into the field and do what we call CA, construction administration.
Hmm.
And so when you design a building, um, the last phase of that is construction administration. And so as the contractors are building it, you're going out and checking to make sure that is being built the way that you designed it.
Mm,
And then you're answering questions that they may have because your drawing might not have showed everything that needed to be shown, or there might be a material choice that might be better, but you specified something different. And so spending time on the construction side, uh, on the construction site, I would run into these contractors that had been working in the industry for 30 plus years, and they would say, "Well, this detail is dumb. It doesn't work. I can't build this." And
yeah.
so for me, somebody else might have been offended, but for
Mhm,
me, I love positive constructive criticism, and so I
mhm,
would say, "Okay, tell me how it should be
mhm.
drawn," because I drew it by the book. I drew it by
Yeah.
how I was taught. But if you can't build it, it doesn't make sense for me to draw
Yeah,
it that
yeah,
way
yeah.
anymore. So I would just ask questions and learn that way.
Mhm,
And so it helped me, as I transitioned over to the construction side, to see that there was a gap. There's
mm,
this huge gap between designers, architects, engineers,
mhm,
and construction personnel.
mm.
And it's just the reality of how we go to school,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
we're taught in a bubble and we're taught by the book. And a lot of designers don't get to go out into the field because of the demands that they have.
Mhm.
Um, but a lot of the things that we design aren't buildable.
Yeah,
Um, and
yeah.
so it causes this conflict where you'll see contractors not like architects and architects not like contractors,
Mm,
because there's that gap between what is drawn on paper and
yeah.
what can actually be built in the real world.
Yeah, yeah. Or even what the capabilities of someone or the particular contractor may have in building a particular structure or experience and things like that. So that is very interesting. I'll take that in consideration when I'm planning out to build my own home from scratch. Uh, and so I guess you mentioned that you had a little girl, and so what's the work life balance like for an either an architect or like what you're doing now, a construction project engineer?
Um, that varies. Our industry as a whole is, again, very difficult. Like I always said, I don't know what a 9 to 5 is. Like people who have a 9 to 5 where they clock in at 9 a.m. and they clock out exactly at 5 p.m. I haven't experienced that in my career. Typically, we're asked to work um, 50, 60, even 80 hours a week,
Mm,
because of the client demands. You'll be working on a project and the client's demanding it to be built yesterday, and so
mm,
you're pushing to get it out the door, and so you're trying to meet these hard deadlines, and you're in there on the weekend. I think it is necessary to find the
mhm.
firm that works for the lifestyle that you have.
Yeah, yeah,
And so at some point in your career, that might be great. At one point in my career, living in another state on a construction site was great. There's lots of money to be made.
mhm.
Um, you get a stipend for being out there a lot of times, and
Yeah,
so you're able to save a lot more,
mm,
because all of your living expenses being on that site are paid for, and
mm,
then you still get your salary a lot of
yeah,
times depending on what company you're at, and so it financially it benefits you, but just depending on the phase of your career. So somebody coming fresh out of college, that's a great place to be,
yeah,
making a
yeah.
lot of money, saving a lot of money. Someone with a family, that might
Mhm.
not be realistic, or it might not be what they want. And
Yeah.
so for me, I had to find the firm that fit the work life balance that I wanted.
Mm,
And though I spent a year and a half away when my daughter was 6 months old, um, I realized that that was for a purpose, and that I was
mm,
trying to
mm.
establish myself at this new company.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so that then I could be back in a space where I could have more of a work life balance.
Yeah, no. And that's a very good point that, that time of sacrifice. Sometimes we do have to make that sacrifice to provide for our family. I remember TD Jake saying something like, you can never be everything to your family, and he was just saying like, if I'm a good provider, then um you're probably gonna miss out on my time, because some of my time, a lot of my time may be spent working, and if you get a lot of my time, then I probably won't be bringing in the money that I can be bringing in. And so, you're never going to be the perfect dad. He was talking on that nature, and so you really have to find out what that balance look like you for your individual as an individual, and what that balance can look like for your family. And so I think that is certainly a hard thing, for parents, any parents, to deal with, that the fact that you can't do it all, you can't give all the time and all the provision. There is a balance between those two. And I liked how you highlighted in a different train of thought. You mentioned, and something that I didn't necessarily know about, the fact that things like the metaverse, the people that are designing it, are maybe architecture, or potentially went to architecture schools and things of that nature. Have you spent much time, or are you in conversations? Have you been in conversations with any architects or people in that type of field that have been working on those type of projects? And what is that like, if you have?
No, I haven't spent much time in conversation with people in that space. I did know back in architectural school, people who went into uh, gaming design. So
Mhm,
designing like the world of Call of Duty,
mhm,
or I don't know what that other popular
mhm.
game,
Fortnite.
Fortnite, yeah, like the
Mhm,
world of Fortnite. I know people who went to architectural school who went over to design video games
mhm,
in that space. I know people who went into like Disney engineering. So, like
mhm,
when you go to a Disney theme park or a Universal theme park, you're just enjoying it. But that was very curated for your
mhm,
enjoyment. Like that whole the from the moment you walk in, some engineer, some architect designed that space so that you would experience it that way. So I knew people who went that way. And then I do a lot of virtual reality.
mhm,
So when I was on the architecture side, when I freelance with clients, I design in virtual reality, and so I'll design the building, and then I'll put my client in a virtual reality headset and let them walk around their building
mhm,
before it's even built, so they can see what it's going to look like. They can understand how it's going to feel when they actually get
mhm.
inside of it.
That's pretty cool. I really like that idea. And what about for like career transitions? Would you say architect is a good career if someone is trying to transition careers, or is it not a good career? And are there any particular careers that may be a smoother transition? So let's say someone is in 40 years old and it's like, yeah, I want to become an architect. Would you recommend they go to school for that, or would you say, it might not be the best career? What are your thoughts?
I would say that um, if they're passionate about it, again, I stress that word because so many people go to college, right? Fresh out
Yeah.
of high school. And I think this whole notion that we should go to college at 17 is ridiculous, or we should understand what it is that we're going to do for the rest of our life at 17, right? Like
Yeah.
in high school, they tell you focus, lock in, pick a career path. You're 17, 18 years old, and you need to decide what the rest of your life is going to
Mhm.
look like. And then you have to commit to hundreds of thousands of dollars of either out of pocket expenses, or hopefully you can get scholarships. But most people, as we can see, the debt crisis, have these hundreds of thousands of dollars of student loans. And
Mhm.
so they're choosing career paths that don't speak to them. And then they get into the industry and they hate what they do. And they're stressed
Mhm.
out every day. They're having health issues. So employee health and well-being is something that's really big in the design industry right now, right? Like,
Mhm.
how do we make sure that we're looking at good health and well-being as a priority for the employees, from the way that the space is laid out and designed, to the views that they have, to the work-life balance. Um, all of those things are so important. And so when people go into these careers that they don't like, it's easy to see somebody's transitioning at
Mhm.
40 because they've spent the last 20 years of their life doing something they hated. But architecture specifically, I would say make sure it's what you're passionate about, because
Mhm.
an architecture bachelor's degree is a 5-year program.
Mhm.
Um, and if you want to become a licensed architect, so I'm not currently licensed, I'm studying for my exams. There's 5 exams. So
Mhm.
that's another thing. So there's a 5-year undergrad program, and if your school isn't accredited, then you need to go get a master's, which is another 2 years to get an accredited degree. Because without an accredited degree, you can't sit for licensure.
Mhm.
So potentially, you have 7 years of school, then you have to work to gain experience. So you have to have at least I think it's 3 years of work experience, and you have to check various boxes. So you can't just work for a firm doing the same thing for the 3 years.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
have to get a certain number of hours in specific topics.
yeah.
And so a lot of times that takes more than 3 years. So now that you add another 5 years on that, and then you can sit to take your exams, and there are five of them, and they're each one of them is as difficult as like taking the LSAT or something like that. And so I would say be very very aware of that, and what you want to do with transitioning into architecture. It's not easy to break into, but it's
Yeah.
possible if you're strategic about it. If you're strategic, like I said, I transitioned careers from architecture over to the construction side,
Mm.
and was very strategic about it, and it worked. I've seen other people do it and it not work so well.
So, and two things. What's up, Michael? Thanks for leaving a comment. And I know Michael went to architecture school. If you don't mind me asking, if you're still watching, Michael, do you currently work as an architect, or are you in like a subsection of the architecture field? And have you taken your exams, and do you plan to take your exams? I'm just curious while we have the conversation. Feel free to let me know in the comment section if you so choose. And so I was going to ask you, you talk about the construction side and more architecture focused firms. Can you explain, like, is it something that's easy to jump between them? Is it kind of like, okay, now I'm on construction, I'll probably continue on this particular course? Like, can you kind of break that down for folks?
Um, So I wouldn't say that it's necessarily easy, because a lot of times, like I said, most people are looking for years of experience, right? And so
Mhm.
to break into different firms, they say, oh well, we want 5 years of experience or 7 years of experience. Um, but again, it's being able to highlight those transferable skills, is being able to showcase your passion for the work that you're doing and the skills that you can bring, and just truly selling yourself. And I would say along with that comes, um, I was just telling somebody yesterday that I strategically curated my friends group, and I use that word curate on purpose, right? Like
Yeah.
I curated the people that I allow into my circle of influence,
Mm.
right? The people that get to speak into my life, the people
Yeah.
that get to give me advice, and the people that I can seek advice from.
Mhm.
And so being able to have the network that I have, yourself included, Caden, and to be able to bounce ideas off of you, to be able to um, do interview prep with, right? It's not most people just show up for an interview and then they wonder why they don't get the job. Like no,
Mm.
it is a science to
Yeah, yeah,
interviewing.
yeah.
It is a science to navigating careers in corporate America. It's not by chance that people reach certain levels in their career. But if you don't understand the politics of that, if you don't understand how to do that, um, then it's very difficult to get there. So I would say that um, making transitions is good. So for me, I have this philosophy. A mentor told me that you should reevaluate your career every 6 months.
Mm.
You shouldn't be reevaluating to leave your job,
Yeah,
because if you're jumping jobs every 6 months, then you become a risk
yeah.
because nobody wants to hire you if you only
Yeah.
have 6 months stints on your resume. But you should be reevaluating to see, am I in the position that I want to be in?
Mm.
Am I giving everything that I possibly can to this particular job? Is this job giving me back everything that it possibly can give me?
Mm.
And that's something that people don't think about a lot, right?
Mm.
They look at it as a job as, oh wow, they gave me an opportunity. But no, you're bringing yourself to the table. You're bringing your skills to the table. So for as much as they're giving you and your salary, you're
Mhm.
giving them and your time and your
Mm.
skills. And so being aware of that and understanding that there might be things that you need to ask for, and it doesn't always have to be monetarily, but um, it could be roles and work. So for me, I haven't always asked for monetary promotion, but
Mhm.
if I find myself bored, I'm not one of those people who could go to work and only work 2 hours a day and then be happy and say,
Yeah,
"Well, I
yeah,
got paid for the other six."
yeah, yeah.
I need to be intellectually engaged the whole time. So
Mm.
I've been at firms where I said, "Hey, I can do the work that you assign me in my sleep." Can I can I work on this? And I think that's what's helped me navigate my career, right? Like by saying, hey, I've been on the architecture side. Let me understand the finances because they didn't teach me
Mhm.
about the finances of architecture in school. So I could design the building, but I don't know the finance of it. I don't know how
Yeah,
that
yeah, yeah.
that $100 million contract breaks down. I don't know where
Mhm.
all that money is going and why it's going there and how they're breaking down that. So let me understand that. And so I just went to my superiors and said, hey, I don't need you to give me more money. I need you to give me this opportunity so I can learn. Um, so being very strategic about how you navigate your career and navigate through space then helps you transition and not be afraid of it. So for me, when I left architecture and I went to construction, I said, well, I don't need to I don't need to know that I'm going to be successful. I know
Mhm.
that I'm going to operate in excellence, and
Mhm.
if I do fail, then at least I tried. And I
Yeah,
can always go back to an architecture firm. I can always go back and do what I know I'm successful at,
yeah,
but
yeah.
I can go over here and try something new.
And I would say, and we've had a lot of conversations over the course of our friendship. And I would say one thing I've always liked about you is how you usually negotiate your contracts and stuff like that, or how you, yeah, just I, you've always exuded confidence in what you brought to the table to whatever company, even if you didn't always check all of the boxes. And I think that has worked out pretty successfully for you. And so I do want you to comment on that. But before we do that, I do want to read Michael answer to the question that I asked. And he wrote currently a project manager on the owner's side within the facility slash design and construction department. Don't have my ARC license and not looking to get it at the moment. At the moment, considering transition into the construction field. And so, maybe it might be a good thing for the both of you guys to connect after this call. I think that would be a great connection to have. And similar to you, Michael is also someone that I met in a church, in Highland Church, not at Charles Street where we met, Highland Church when I lived in New York City. And so, who was also in architecture. So that it's an interesting little connection there. But like I said, throughout our conversations, when you were negotiating contracts or transitioning jobs or whatever the case may have been, I feel like you've always exuded a level of confidence in asking for what you believe you deserve. And I guess any general strategies for someone that is, maybe they're in architecture and maybe they don't meet all the qualifications, but how do they go about? What's your philosophy as it relates to asking for what you think you deserve? And I'll put it like that.
Um, yeah, no. So I have always negotiated all my contracts. I believe that again, it's not something that's uh, it's not something that's talked about a lot, right? Like taboo. I mean, finances are so taboo, so people don't want to talk
Mm,
about their salary and they don't want to share that. They feel like it's intrusive. But for me, I'm like, no, I need to understand so I can understand how to cross thresholds that I haven't reached yet. So when I was trying to get this a six-figure salary, I hadn't crossed that threshold. That's a very difficult milestone to get across. And so I reached out to my network, people who I knew that were in those positions that were at that level, and I talked to them. I asked them questions. I did market research. So that's one of the big things that I do when I negotiate a salary. I don't just come in and say, "Hey, I think I deserve X amount of dollars." I say, based on my market research, the salary range for the things that you're asking me for and someone with my unique skill set is whether that be 50,000 to 80,000 or 100,000 to 140,000. And then based on that, whatever that salary range is, I determine where I feel with my skill set and the job description, I should be on that range. So there are times that I feel like I should be on the higher end of that range. There are times that maybe I'm coming in and I don't think that I check all the boxes, right? And maybe I think that for me, I know I can do the job, but for them, it is a risk, right? Like looking at it from strictly a professional standpoint for the company, if they select someone who doesn't check all the boxes that they were looking for, it's a risk.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so maybe in that scenario, I just want to be on the bottom end of that range to
Mhm.
come in and prove myself, right? So instead of trying to push to be on the upper end of the range, that might disqualify me for the job,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
because then they'll look at that and say, well, he doesn't even meet all of our qualifications and he
Mhm.
wants to be paid at the level of someone who has all of that. So I'll say, hey, let me come in here. But I also then say, let's build out a career path for me.
Mm,
So maybe you can't give me that amount of dollars today,
mhm.
but what are the things that you need from me to get me to that amount, right?
Mm.
And then let's put that on paper.
Yeah,
Let's
yeah.
everybody agree and sign that. So then I'll get there. So I came
Mm,
into a job when I first moved to St. Louis, and they didn't give me the salary that I wanted. But
mhm,
I said, okay, I'll take that salary because you're taking a risk on me. But here's where I want to be. What do I need to do to get there? And they gave me a
mm,
list, and they said, here are your 5-year goals. Within a year and a half, I had completed everything that was on their 5-year goal list,
mm.
because I knew that I was betting on myself. I knew
Yeah, yeah,
how
yeah.
I operate in excellence, and so if you give me a path, if we can create that, then I can get to where I want to be.
Mm,
So again, it goes back to that operating in excellence, right? Like I knew that I was going to blow them away once I got into the position,
mhm,
just because of the favor that God has on my life, and then the work ethic that I have
mm, mm.
to push myself there. And so um, it is about being very intentional. It's about leaving emotion out the door,
Yeah,
um, and and really looking at data, like, because
yeah,
that's what companies care about, a bottom line. They do
yeah.
not care about your emotions. They don't care about any of that. They care about their bottom line and
Yeah.
the data that supports them giving you
What?
whatever that salary is.
Yeah. No, I 100% agree, and especially with companies do not care about your emotion. I remember at my old company that I used to work for my first promotion, I felt like it was overdue. And so one of the things that I did is I put down all the reasons why I felt I should be promoted. And one of the top of the reasons is that I was pretty much number one producer. Even if even if you can say that some of the soft skills I may not have had as well, like can be rough with management or whatever the case may be. Even as some of the soft skill in terms of a production standpoint and things like that, I had hit all of the skills. I was great with the clients. I think the worst part about me probably was I spoke my mind, and so I didn't really suck up to people. But I pretty much presented that in a conversation to my director, and she was like, okay, give me here's what you need to do to get to the next level, the same way that we talked about. But after she wrote out the I guess after we talked about the plan, the following day she actually called me into the room and promoted me. And I don't know why, she didn't even I didn't have to go through all of the stuff that she said. um, but she did say, I'm still expecting you to work on these soft areas. And I also say that to say to anyone that knows that they have earned something or believe that they deserve a certain paycheck. Make sure you advocate for yourself, and more on the here's what I've done so far, here's how I've contributed to the company, here's how I've been excellent. And let that speak for you. And I remember someone told me once, if you do all you can for a particular company and it doesn't work out, then it's their loss. And so sometimes you do have to part ways. But that
Yeah.
that that that's another story for another time. And so I guess my final question for you. So what are your final thoughts for folks? Any final thoughts you'll leave with anyone that has joined us today?
Yeah, so I would say anybody who's interested in the architecture field, or if you have children that are interested in the architecture, design, and construction field, it is very rewarding. It is an extremely rewarding field. I love the work that I get to do. I love that when I walk into a building, I was at a hibachi restaurant, and I'm sitting at the table, and I was able to point up to the vent that's above the hibachi table, um, and speak to how expensive that is, how difficult it is to install, because I've installed multiple
Mm,
ones in my career at a different type of building. I can walk into a space and understand how it's designed. Um, so I would say that it's extremely rewarding. It's difficult, and then understand that that slide that my teacher put up, that there are 100 different opportunities that you can get with this type of degree or in this field. So maybe you're not meant to be an architect, but you're
mm,
meant to be a mechanical engineer.
mm,
Maybe you're meant to be an electrical or a plumbing engineer or a civil engineer. Maybe that is your career path, but all you know is architecture. So explore all the possibilities, because somebody who's wired to be an architect is very different than someone who's wired to be a mechanical engineer or a process engineer or something else. And so understand where your strength lie, where your passion lies. Um, and again, operate in excellence and curate your circle. And then to your point, go to war for yourself. Someone said to me once, yes, you are a company man, but you are always the CEO of Adam Walker Enterprises.
mm,
You're always your own CEO. And so, therefore, you should be operating in that space that um, I need to get what I'm due, what's best for me, and understand that at some times um, it's very, I'm very big on emotional intelligence.
mm,
Um, so like there's a book, Emotional Intelligence 2.0, and it talks about how the most successful people in the world um, are not people that have a high IQ, but they're the people who have a high EQ, because
mm,
they understand how to navigate. So navigate the business world and understand people, which get
mm,
them to a extremely successful level. And these people probably have high IQ as well,
mhm,
but it's their EQ that allows them to navigate rooms uh,
mm,
where major decisions are happening. So when I walk into a boardroom where there's $1 billion decision on the table, and I'm staring a billionaire CEO in the face, um, I'm able to navigate that room. I'm able to understand who he is, emotionally who he is, and how to speak to that. So I never shuck and jive. I never diminish myself.
mhm,
I show up as me, but I understand emotionally how to do that to get the results that I need in that moment.
mm. I
And
love that. And I, Michael said, "Can you drop the name of the book again?" Um,
Um, so, uh, Emotional Intelligence 2.0 is the one book. The other book that I'll highlight that he should definitely grab is The First 90 Days. The
mm,
first 90 days has been revolutionary for my career. Like if anybody is navigating uh, their career and wants to be successful, read the book The First 90 Days. And I don't just apply it in my first 90 days at a job. I apply it over and over again throughout my time there. I write 90-day plans
mm.
to set goals for myself to be successful. And then I'll take those to my boss and say, hey, look, here's what I was able to accomplish in the last 90 days. Here are my goals for the next 90 days. And they've been blown away by me thinking like that.
Oh, that's beautiful. And so I'll say this since I saw my mom left a comment and that she's online. My little cousin actually came up to Boston like 2 or 3 weeks ago to visit colleges. And one of the things I asked her, obviously, is what she's looking to become. And she surprisingly says an architect as well. And I told her then, oh, I have a good friend named Adam that I need to connect you with. Because she specifically said she wanted to become an architect in sustainability. And I know sustainability is something that you did as well and was kind of your focus in school as well. And so I still have to put you guys in contact with each other as she's looking to get into this field. So
Absolutely.
my mom can keep me accountable there. But no, Adam, thank you so much for just taking the time. Or I did want to say one other thing to what you were saying earlier. I was watching an interview with Kanye West, and he was talking about the question they asked him is why he went with Jay Z and not Dame when Dame is the one that was super supportive of him when no one else wanted to take him serious. And he said, me and Dame have the same personality. When Dame, we both kind of rub people the wrong way. Like, the way we speak is not a way that really is effective communicator. Like, you may try to be say something from the heart, and but turn off everyone you're speaking to, as opposed to Jay-Z, who he has a way to navigate the room and can speak to people from different classes and things like that in a way that they understand, and he needed to learn that. And I say all of that to say the ability to connect with people in conversation, the ability to speak to people in a way that they can actually hear what you're saying, that is certainly a skill, and a skill that will help you in any field that you venture into. So I love just co-signing your thought in that area. But again, thank you, Adam, so much for joining us today. Thank you, everyone that joined us live here. And thank you, everyone that will join us in the future as they come back to watch this interview. If you haven't already, go ahead and smash the like button. Like I said, that really helps out the channel. And if you're on YouTube, you can support the channel by, either becoming a member on the channel, or you can hit the thanks button and feel free to make whatever contributions that you would like to support this content. And like I said, Adam, we will obviously be in touch. But everyone that is on tonight, like I always say, God bless you, and remember to live your